The enforcer of EU regulations, the European Commission, says Italy's government isn't playing by the rules and there's a price to pay.
With what the Italian government has put on the table, we see a risk of the country sleepwalking into instability. I hope this risk is to be avoided because at the end what is at stake is the well-being and future prosperity of Italian people.
The dispute is over what the country owes and how it plans to pay it back, a concern shared by many Italians.
We are very worried because there is a problem. The public debt is increasing. Who's going to pay this at the end of the day?
Italy's public debt stands at a whopping $2.6 trillion, the second highest in the EU behind Greece. It's much more than what the whole economy produces in an entire year. But government revenues are also high, more than 40% of GDP, and tax rates are comparable to the likes of Sweden, Belgium and Denmark, countries that spend much more on their citizens. Those who depend on state handouts like the elderly say their livelihoods are in the crosshairs.
It looks like we are the nut in the nutcracker. We are in the middle of the EU and the Italian government.
Many support government plans to spend more on the most vulnerable.
I'm not worried because I trust this government. I like them. They are young and there is hope. I didn't like all the other governments that we had up until now.
The Commission wants the government to limit its deficit to 0.8% of GDP as agreed by the previous government. But the current government's planning to spend its way to a 2.4% deficit. That could draw a fine as high as 0.2% of GDP from the Commission. Yet Rome is showing no signs it will relent, and slapping it with penalties could take up to 6 months, delaying but not diffusing Italy's debt crisis. Mobin Nasir, TRT World.
Let's get more on the story now from Kevin Ozebek, who joins us now from Brussels. Good to have you back with us. So we've been speculating for weeks now about whether the EU would actually go through with its threats of punishing Italy, and today it's pulled the trigger by initiating the so-called excessive deficit procedure. Tell us more about that. How will this unfold?
Yeah, Asker, it's a very long term, a very technical sounding term, but really all this means is that the European Commission, if the process keeps continuing and going on, could eventually fine the Italian government about 0.2% of its GDP. Now, that sounds very tiny, very minuscule, but when you consider that Italy is the third largest economy in the EU, that translates to billions. So what happened today was the European Commission said it is warranted that we take action here, yet it still wants to hear from the EU member states. So it has EU countries, given them 2 weeks to put forth ideas and to tell the Commission if they think they should proceed with having some form of punishment against Italy. Now, of course, the populist government there in Italy can always say to the European Commission, okay, we've heard your concerns, we're going to amend our budget. But absolutely no sign from Rome that the government's going to do that.
Yes, as you say, the EU member states have been given a 2-week period in which to decide if it will go ahead with this procedure that could eventually, as you say, lead to sanctions. What's the feeling among fellow EU members there? Is there a desire to punish Italy?
Well, of course, austerity measures have really taken a toll across the EU, but at the same time, the tone is quite tough from Brussels. And when you just look at the numbers, it seems to be that there really isn't much support for the Italian government here. I mean, we have commissioners using language like Italy is sleepwalking into devastation here. So really tough talk here. And also, you have to keep in mind that Italy is already about $2 trillion in debt. This proposal of this budget would just explode that and expand that even more. EU countries have already had to bail out Greece. They don't want a second bailout. They don't want to see Italy take the same route. So right now it looks like most EU countries are really in support of the Commission here.
And there was a lot of excitement today on Italian markets after reports surfaced in local media there that the Deputy Prime Minister Matteo Salvini might be open to revise some of the budget spending measures there. What's the reaction been from the Italians now that the EU has made this latest move?
Yeah, so Oscar, based on his comments, is there some capitulation here? He basically said that, okay, we are willing to make some little tweaks here, a little tweak there when it comes to the budget, but when it comes to the core proposals, like cutting taxes, reversing the rising or the raising of the retirement age, that all stays. But could Salvini be continued to be changing his mind here as the Commission ratchets up its pressure? We'll wait to see if that happens because, again, with the potential for a huge fine, we'll see if Italy will change its course. But right now, the Commission says, Italy, watch out because we will be starting this process. We have, in fact, we want to hear our input from the member states, and we'll continue down this road if need be.
So it sounds like that this so-called excessive deficit procedure is quite a lengthy process. So is there still room for negotiation here between Rome and Brussels?
Of course there is, and Brussels has made it clear all along that it wants there to be an open dialogue with Rome, that it's not just putting its foot down, it's not just being firm for the sake of firm, and it's already made up its mind. It says we completely want there to be an open talking session with Italy. But also, Brussels has been very clear that this proposal budget just does not work. The numbers don't make sense. In the eyes of the European Commission, essentially they have a massive member state potentially on the verge of committing fiscal suicide. So Brussels is saying, hey, we're not going to budge here on what we think of this budget. The court now is in Rome's hands. So how are they going to react? Some signs that maybe Italy is going to crunch the numbers some more. We'll wait and see what happens.
Yes, interesting. The million-dollar question. Kevin Ozebek in Brussels, thank you so much.